one thing that we implemented was a lower staffing ratio with our expansion at Bothell. So we have that down to a 1-to-7 for just our caregivers. And that just allows for that resident and staff person to really develop a bond. So that way they can still give their input as best they can. Maybe it's not verbally, but maybe it's through action and seeing their eyes light up when music plays.
Just to compare, because 1-7 is phenomenal. What is usually the staff ratio?
I've seen dangerous numbers of 1-to-15 in memory care. 1-to-10 is pretty general, 1-to-9, 1-to-10. And this is just caregivers. That's not including a med tech.
Correct.
Yeah.
Nurse,
Yeah, or a nurse. And so we have also a med tech on top of the 1-to-7 caregivers and a nurse.
Amazing.
And residential coordinators and activities.
Welcome to the Answers for Elders radio show.
And welcome back, everyone, to Answers for Elders Radio Network. And when we talk about a dream team, I am lucky to be back at Chateau Retirement. And we are actually in Linwood, which is Chateau Pacific. We're talking about a brand new program that's just being launched called Chateau Gardens. And Derek, you and I just spent the first segment talking about the amazing work that came into creating this incredible, level of care and process for those that are with Alzheimer's dementia. And Amanda, welcome back.
Hi,
Amanda Krueger, who is
Hi.
Vice President of Health Services. And Amanda, you and I have talked a lot about care.
Yes.
But this is like a whole new and amazing things. And you were, I'm sure, part of this task force that came together.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about Chateau Gardens from your perspective, from the care perspective.
Yes. Well, as Derek mentioned in the first segment, we really wanted to bring a program together that looked at the resident and not the disease. And so what did that take as far as the care part of it was the individualized care plans, the staff training, and then also making sure the staff is really taking the time with the residents. And so it took a lot of work, and I think we've got a really good product that's
incredible. That's incredible. And, obviously there's families across the USA that are struggling. And I know that, I'm working with the Alzheimer's Association, and a lot of the statistics just blow me away. Yeah. For example, if you're over the age of 65, 1 in every 9 persons are going to contract Alzheimer's disease or some form of dementia. That to me is just overwhelming. And getting over, I think it's over 75. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I think it's 1 in every 3.
Yep. It's getting very prevalent.
When we look at as the boomers are aging and things like this, you guys are really setting a foundation to care for those. Yes, we're making amazing breakthroughs in clinical research. So I don't want the whole world to think that, we're all doomed. But at the same time, I think that there really is important that you guys are really at the front end of so many things that are happening. Yeah. You and Derek have both talked about treating the patient rather than the disease. How does that differentiate when it comes to care?
Well, I think it just allows the resident to be who they are and to still allow them to be as independent as they can. And having the staff trained well enough to understand that just because they have dementia, that doesn't mean they can't still wash their face. Something simple where let's have that staff give them a washcloth and then kind of mirror the action of washing a face and still allow that resident to be as individual and independent as they can.
Yeah.
And promote that.
And I've heard, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard that even with those that have advanced Alzheimer's, there's a sense to always help them provide purpose. How does that work within that construct with the progression of the disease?
Yeah, I think still talking to them, like still having them get engaged and having the staff work. We have one thing that we implemented was a lower staffing ratio. With our expansion at Bothell, we expanded up to 45 beds at Bothell and looking at the resident ratio with our staff. So we have that down to a 1-to-7 for just our caregivers. And that just allows for that resident and staff person to really develop a bond. So that way they can still give their input as best they can. Maybe it's not verbally, but maybe it's through action and seeing their eyes light up when music plays. You know, music is a huge part of a lot of therapy with memory care. It elicits a lot of memory responses. And so that staff person needs to spend time, and having the ability to only care for, you know, one, like 5 or 6 residents, it allows for that individual to still be them.
And obviously with when you're talking about the staff ratio, 1 to 7, that is phenomenal.
Yes.
And something that if you're across the country and you're not in the Pacific Northwest, if you're looking at memory care, that's a question that families need to ask when you're interviewing a potential place, is a staff ratio. What is usually, just to compare, because 1 in 7 is phenomenal, what is usually the staff ratio?
I've seen dangerous numbers of 1 to 15 in memory care. 1 to 10 is pretty general, 1 to 9, 1 to 10. And this is just caregivers. That's not including a med tech.
Correct.
Yeah.
Nurse,
Yeah, or a nurse. And so we have also a med tech on top of the 1 to 7 caregivers and a nurse.
Amazing.
And residential coordinators and activities. And so, yeah, we feel real fortunate that we've been able to implement this with our Chateau Gardens.
Wow, that is so cool. And then obviously to be aware of involving the family. One of the things that Derek mentioned a little bit about how the family is more engaged.
Yes.
How does that happen in the care plan?
Letting them give us information. You know, maybe Sally has a hard time bathing, but that the family members let us know that she likes bananas. So let's do a banana before we take a bath. And then that just helps make it more individualized. So taking as much data that we can from our family members or our staff too, because, you know, our staff spend a lot of time with our residents, all the little tips and tricks, and making sure then that everybody knows what it takes to make sure that residents cared for as much as possible.
And I'm sure the spouse, that's a big deal. What have you found with involving the spouse to the degree of making them feel like they have purpose through this? That's a big part of their unit, right? How does that play into it?
I was going to mention, so we had something really cool happen at Bothell, kind of organically, I think, as we got, you know, more relationships built with our residents and their families, that a lot of the spouses actually created their own group within our space and the Chateau Gardens. So every week they would sit down in our outdoor courtyard and they would have just hangouts. So it would just be talking as if things were just as they are, meeting each other, you know, in the journey, and the spouses could also kind of relate to one another at the same time. And it was really cool to see that organically kind of just grow from having that space just be welcoming in that way.
You know, such a unique situation. If you're a family caregiver, you know, at least you can go home at night, you know, sometime if you're living separately, you know, or you're working a job, there's something else. But so many spouses, that's all they do is they isolate themselves from their own life and to care for this loved one. And they, you know, to find that connection where they realize they're not alone and then they can have healthy dialogue. That's huge for the well-being of the spouse.
Yes. Yeah. Whether it's denial or just that sense of ownership, like this is my spouse, I said till death do we part, you know, and they take their vows very seriously, but allowing them just that little bit. And it is a stepping stone process, you know, we don't expect them to totally relinquish all responsibility, but just like a little piece at a time, you know, we got this.
Right.
That building that trust. And then you can see them just kind of get back, relief and get back to their own being and taking care of themselves.
And obviously it's the interaction with the family on an ongoing basis. And we've talked in earlier segments about care conferences. I'm sure those happen frequently as those things. How does that change?
Like you said, it's a frequent ongoing communication path. We have memory care nurses in all of our communities, and they are amazing advocates for their residents. And making sure those families stay as involved as they're willing and able. You know, some are way involved, and we love that, and some are not so much because of their own lives. And so whatever journey it is for the family members, we we keep them engaged as possible.
That's
and
wonderful.
share pictures, if there's a need for a family member in like through email, sending pictures of their loved one, just like, hey, mom's good. She's doing okay. Or your wife's doing okay. So they love getting that kind of communication too.
Yeah. Wow. And obviously the day-to-day of the care, you guys are so specially trained. What kind of extra training have you given to your care staff?
Yes, our care staff have extra training through Elias. So every month they're given some type of education, of whether it's a video or an article to read. And it's just allowing them to understand taking care of the resident and not the disease. And so how to communicate, how to verbalize, mimic, shadow, those kinds of things. We do a lot of training videos through Tipa Snow. She's a great resource.
Tupa.
Yeah.
She's fabulous.
She is, yes. And so we do a lot of education with our staff.
Yeah. So cool. Amanda, thank you for coming back again.
Thank you.
I am so blown away by this program. And Derek and you guys have done an amazing job.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Did you know that you can discover hundreds of podcasts in our library on senior care? So visit our website and discover our decision guides that will help you also navigate decision making. Find us at answersforelders.com.